Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist / secular / awesome community. This is episode number 62. We are recording live on June 28th, 2016. I would like to thank last week's guest, Pastor Matt Riddle, for being on and letting me in on the Church of the Brethren. I did not get the secret handshake. I'm sorry. I wish I could have joined him at the religious conference he was at to be a guest speaker and yell, get out while you're young. I hope to get more religious-like people soon on the show, but let's get back to the echo chamber, shall we? This week, I feel I have to be extra creative about my introduction because tonight's guest hates attention and writes words good. Ari Stillman is the co-host of the Gaytheist Manifesto, perhaps the only atheist podcaster I've ever met who wants more hate mail. Ari is trans, genderqueer, pansexual, and their superpower is not being cut by either Ashley or Jeremiah. Let's keep that controversy going. Yes. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. If you need someone religious to be on your show, I have my cat Spooner. He's right over here protecting us from monsters right now.
Oh yeah, I forgot about your fundamentalist Christian cat.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Do go to Patheos.com and check out the Gaytheist Manifesto. Has their own blog now. Man, you take it over. Next thing, breakfast cereal.
I had nothing to do with it whatsoever, and I just did like I normally do and just rode on Callie's coattails because that's how I do it.
That's a beautiful way to go. We're going to show that you have your own skills and talent, and you're a real person too. Dang it!
I'm not so sure about that. I'm pretty sure I'm a fake person.
Let's start with, what kind of beverages we have tonight. What do you got on your side?
I have some very fine peach vodka mixed with club soda because it was cheap and will get you drunk.
That's the goal. And I'm drinking.
Yes.
I try to find beer with religious connotation. So from the New Belgian Lips of Faith series, let me actually get the words toward the camera. This is like a golden ale, but it's like a little sour. They're trying some sour beers, which I'm really enjoying. Good beers this summer. Relatively low alcohol, but like that's going to stop me.
You just have to drink 12 of them and then you'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, so
there's a schedule here. This is very professionally-ish. So
yeah, exactly.
Let's get started. Oh, I forgot. I have to do this. I haven't done this in a few weeks, and I really need to. This is the quoting out of context section of the show where I take.
Oh God, Jeremiah warned me about this.
Things you've said on your show that, Jeremiah might have sent one of them to me. What a friend, huh?
Might have. Oh, shit.
Comments from the Gaytheist Manifesto by one Ari Stillman. You just put the penis in a vagina and boom, boom, sexy time.
I don't even remember that one.
I totally hate that I'm attracted to men. No more penises. Because she's yours forever, you own her. Polyamory is unnatural. It's against God's law. And of course, it's all going to end in tears.
Of course.
So if you want to hear more stuff like that,
I think that
Gaytheist Manifesto
defines my philosophy on everything. All those things that you just said is a pretty good summation of my feelings on life in general.
Don't even need to do a whole episode. We're set. We're at 43 minutes in. Anyway, let's do what we usually do at the beginning, except for last week. Actually, we kind of did it last week too. Ari, can you give kind of like your religious background growing up?
Well, do I have to? Yes, I have to. Because this is an atheist podcast, and every time there's a guest, you have to ask them about their religious background, right?
Sure. I mean, you can make it up, but we know your story. Well, some do.
Yeah, I mean, I've already told the truth on By Any Means about it. It's not even anything embarrassing. I'm just like, I don't want to answer real people questions. So I was raised kind of Christian-ish. I didn't go to church much until I was in the 3rd or 4th grade. And my mom is the kind of person who is like, she believes that the Bible and that church are like good moral influences on people. She doesn't really care necessarily about the specifics of it. Like if you believe this thing about baptism or this thing about communion or all those sorts of things. So she just wanted the church to be, a good moral influence on me and on the family. So we started going to church But when I was, I think probably about 10 or 11 years old, and I think it was probably a little too late for me by then. We went to a church in a denomination called Disciples of Christ, which is, as far as Christianity goes, it's fairly liberal. It's not like UU or that kind of thing, but it's the kind of church where they don't really care so much about specific doctrinal beliefs. It's like, as long as you believe in Jesus and you believe in the Bible, like, you're cool to come to church, and all the sermons are about, like, you know, good lessons from the Bible and that kind of thing. So I never really had any super negative experiences growing up in that kind of a church environment. It was just kind of like, whatever, like, this doesn't really matter to my life very much. Like, nobody who goes, or at least in the churches that I went to, nobody really cared that much about it. It was more so about the community, I think. So I didn't have a whole lot of negative experiences with it. I just wasn't really convinced by it. I was just like, I have so many questions and none of them were being answered by anybody. And then when I was 16, we moved to a new state, and I started going to a Christian school for the first time. It was an evangelical Protestant Christian school in Little Rock, Arkansas, with pretty fundamentalist views. Like, a lot of the science teachers didn't believe in evolution, and we had mandatory, the class was called Biblical Worldview, which was kind of a mixture of Bible study and epistemology, kind of, but from the slanted, like, fundamentalist Christian perspective. And that really influenced me a lot, because I had never really studied Christianity, because growing up in the church where they didn't really care what you believed, I never really learned that much about church history. I never learned that much about doctrine. And the first, let's see, for most of the first school year that I was there, I went there for 11th and 12th grade. I was like, I just spent most of Biblical Worldview, like, arguing with my teacher, like, how does this make any sense? Please explain this to me, because I didn't get it. And then, of course, there was a boy, and he was Christian, and he really wanted me to be Christian too, because he didn't want me to go to hell. And so I started going to his youth group and, you know, reading more of the Bible. And I was like, well, I guess I kind of feel something, so it must be Jesus, right? So then I was really into Jesus for about a year. And then I just kind of was like, I don't really care. Like, I was really into it for a while. And then I just, especially after I was like, yeah, I'm going to read the whole Bible. I'm going to know everything about it. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to pray every night. And this was somebody who wasn't used to praying at all. So it was a really weird experience for me to try to pray, because I just felt like I was talking to myself, even though I did believe in God and I did think God was listening. I was just like, it's just like me talking to myself, and I'm not really getting anything back. I don't understand what this is about. So I just felt really weird and guilty. Like, I didn't have enough faith, and I wasn't a good enough Christian, because I didn't feel all these feelings that they told me that I should feel when I was praying and reading the Bible. And I tried to read the Bible from cover to cover, and I got to Numbers, and I was like, this is the boringest crap I've ever read. And I still believed in God. I was just like, the Bible, I'm just going to read the parts that are, you know, nice and fluffy and that kind of thing.
Well, even the pastor last week admitted he hadn't read the whole book, so, you know.
No. There are very few Christians who have read the whole thing.
I don't know if you get like a special badge or something once you've read every word, or begat, or, you know, it's a challenging thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you get through the whole thing and you're still a Christian by the end, I think you probably deserve some kind of cognitive dissonance award.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely part of it. So you've had a few, like, coming outs in your life.
Yeah,
so did you really have to Google genderqueer to discover that's what you were and are?
Yeah, I did. I first heard the term when I was in the beginning of my junior year of college, by being involved in the LGBT and ally group on campus. And I met someone there who identified themselves as genderqueer, and I'd never heard that before. I was under the impression that transgender was a strictly binary thing, that if you were assigned female at birth, if you're transgender, that means that you're actually male. Other way around, for the other way around, of course. And I'd never heard that there was any possibility that you could be a mixture of male and female. You could be neither male or female. You could be like 70% female and 30% male and 65% alien or whatever. So I had never heard of it before. and it really intrigued me. So I was just, I wasn't really expecting that this would be a label that I would find myself being really comfortable with and identifying with. I just started looking it up online, and I just started, reading people's experiences of people who identify as genderqueer and non-binary, and I was just struck so hard by how similarly I felt to these people who are using this term. And I felt like it definitely explained a lot of experiences that I had growing up, and ways that I saw myself and ways that I felt about myself. And I had never had the language for it before. So it was really freeing. And it was more difficult, I think, than accepting myself. Well, when I initially accepted my sexuality, I used the term bisexual. Now I use the term pansexual because I feel like it's more inclusive and it just describes me better. And the way that I did that was I was just sitting in class, and I realized that I had a crush on my friend who was a girl. And I was just like, oh, I guess that means I'm bisexual. Okay. And it was just like super easy for me. I never had any kind of like struggle with that or any kind of self-loathing with that. It was just, that's the way that I am. It was a little bit more difficult with gender just because it was maybe such a foreign concept to me. It's not something that I had ever heard about, whereas, growing up, I'd heard about gay people and bisexual people. I'd never heard of any kind of non-binary or genderqueer gender identity. So I felt like maybe if I use this term, I'm like appropriating it. Like, I'm not really sure that I'm really this. Like, is there some sort of test I can take or something to determine if I'm really that? So it took me probably about a month or two to be a little bit more comfortable with that. And after that, it was just like home. It was so nice.
Well, I guess some people obviously take a long time to find themselves. So that's,
yeah,
I don't think that's
very lucky to grow up in the internet age where this kind of information is readily available and you can talk to all kinds of people, because if it wasn't for the internet, I would probably still have no idea what I am.
Yeah, well, you were on cognitive dissonance recently, and I feel like one big opportunity was missed, for those guys, the joke a minute types. We just talked about, you being pansexual, and somehow that didn't devolve into a joke about Chicago style pizza. So
That's true. They're always talking about that.
Can I channel Tom and be really confused and ask
Absolutely.
for details about what pansexuality is, and does it come with red pepper?
It can if you want to. That's for sure. Whatever you're into, man. So pansexuality is just a term that describes people who are attracted to all sorts of arrangements of genitals and genders. There are some people who use the term pansexual who don't really care about genitals at all. They just fall in love with people. They don't fall in love with people's bodies. There are some people who use the term who, are attracted to bodies, but they're attracted to all sorts of different types of bodies. So I personally use the term because I feel it's more inclusive than the term bisexual. And I've gotten into arguments with people about, is bisexual an exclusive term? But the way that I understand it is bisexual means attracted to two genders. It could be any two genders. Bi means two. I'm attracted to more than two genders. I'm attracted to conceivably every gender that there is, potentially. So I like to use the term pansexual.
Well, as Trav Mamone mentioned today in a Facebook post, there could be up to 7.4 billion genders, referring to the population of the Earth. So
that was me. That wasn't Trav.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
responded to it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So all of the non-binary people are all the same. I get it. We just all look the same to you.
Yep, that's true. There are glasses involved, but otherwise I'm a total dick, and
That's true.
I have totally lost all credibility. Here I am stalking you, and I do it wrong. I mean, dang, 12 minutes in.
Horrible.
Okay, let's see if I can, bring myself back, or if it's too late. When I was,
okay. We already know you're cis scum. It's all right.
The scummiest. So when I was chatting with Ari to prepare for the show, I asked them if they preferred beer or wine. Turns out Ari is non-binary in beverages as well, and of course is going with the vodka this evening. So why can't you just be a 1 or a 0? Please get the binary joke. Please
why? Yes, I got it. I'm nerdy enough to get that, even though I know very few things about programming. Because why should I? I just don't understand why I have to pick one. Like, there's a listener to the show who I chat with online sometimes, and they use the analogy that it's like trying to describe all colors using only green and orange. Like, it's technically possible, but why should you limit yourself to that when there are so many other ways to describe all these other colors? You don't have to limit yourself to just green or just orange. There's so many other colors out there.
I really like green. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. It was kind of coincidence that the 2 episodes of Gaytheist Manifesto that I most recently listened to were very focused on sex, but it kind of opened up a lot of things. Like, you were supposed to be a certain way. Like, I grew up with male parts being defined as a male, and hey, look, I'm still that. I identify as that, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case with everybody, and I don't see why it would be a problem to say, let people be what they want to be.
I don't know.
It's a tough enough world as it is.
Some people are just really, really attached to binary gender because they've grown up in a culture that's what they've been taught. That's the only options that there are. And I don't know if they feel like personally threatened by that, if somebody chooses to use a different label or feels a different way than they do. I just don't understand the whole mentality of getting into other people's business in the first place. But I don't know, people just have such a hard time understanding it at first, but then once you explain it to them, I think a lot of people, if they're open-minded and willing to learn things, which unfortunately not everyone is, a lot of people, if they don't personally understand it, they at least would be like, well, okay, I guess it makes sense if that's the way that you feel.
And it really, really helps when you know people who are of different backgrounds than you, which, my gosh, too much pale and male out there. You got, everybody else has to take over. I was just thinking in terms of straight people will have issues with gay people, then gay people will occasionally have issues with people who are bisexual, and then bisexuals might look down on people who are genderqueer, and then people who are trans yet binary will look down at people who are not choosing. Because you're just open for, well, not everything, but many things.
Consent is still important. Don't forget that.
Yes. Keep that in mind. So, how did you get onto the Gaytheist Manifesto as a co-host, and did it involve stalking?
I guess you could put it that way. That wasn't my plan. I wasn't like hounding Callie every minute, like, please let me be on the show. Please, I'm desperate for fame and fortune. But I just started out as a listener. I just heard about the show from several different other shows where Callie had done interviews. I think she was on Dogma Debate and Scathing Atheist and a bunch of other podcasts that I already listened to. And I was like, wow, an atheist podcast that talks about queer stuff. Like, this is right up my alley. It's 2 of my favorite topics. So I just started listening to the show and really, really enjoyed it. And ended up becoming friends with Callie on Facebook and becoming a patron. And patrons, if you donate a certain amount, you get access to a monthly video chat with Callie and with me now that I'm a co-host, and with the other patrons who decide that they want to come along, and we just chat about whatever we want. And so I got to know Callie through that, and we talked about just various stuff and things. And then she invited me on for a guest episode that I barely remember because I was so nervous and like, what is happening? I don't know how to do public speaking things so good. And apparently she liked what I had to say because she invited me on again for another 2 guest spots. And then she, for some reason, decided that I would be a good idea to have as a co-host, probably because I'm non-binary and she needed a token non-binary person. That's probably why.
There's a lot of tokens to cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Cover a lot of stuff. Well, that's interesting. My first podcast appearance was on Barroom Atheist like a year ago, November. I haven't been invited back, but they've only done like 4 episodes since. So. Barroom Atheist joke.
It's not personal. Don't worry.
Love y'all. Yeah.
Aww.
They were doing guest bartenders, people on the show because Susie was going through her surgery and stuff, and they haven't really. I don't know. They do it occasionally, and that's lovely when they come back.
Yes, we love them.
So you were, a new big star in the atheist community, and
so I'm throwing up in my mouth right now. Please
you're
take that back.
also going through male puberty. What's happening here?
Kind of, yeah. I've been on a low dose of testosterone for, let's see, I started in October, so I don't know how many months that is. Math is a thing that I can't do in my head. But yeah, so I am becoming hairy and my voice is lowering, kind of, a little bit. And yeah, I'm getting more muscular in my arms and my legs and fat redistribution. It's really, really horny all the time. It's awesome.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it is. Other than the facial hair, I could do without that. But unfortunately, you don't get to pick and choose. That's the thing about being non-binary, is that if you take hormones, like depending on what kind of things give you dysphoria, you might get, alleviation from certain things that give you dysphoria, but then add new things that give you dysphoria. So luckily I can just shave my face and that's okay. And then I don't have facial hair. So it's, it's enough of a sacrifice for me to do that, to be able to get the other benefits that I like.
Yeah, it's like doing a combination of drugs and you don't know what's going to happen. And then that's your side effect, right? And
yeah, exactly.
What a journey, though. I mean, it's quite. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
interesting to see
I'm taking
what
a pretty low dose. So I'm taking like a third of the dose that most, like, for example, binary trans men would be taking, so that they would appear male to everyone. Because that's not my goal. I don't want to appear male. I want to appear androgynous because that's how I feel. So I'm taking a pretty low dose. So the changes are pretty gradual, but I was scared because you see all these YouTube videos of people who start testosterone and then 3 months later, like, their voice is completely different. They're all muscly and hairy. I was like, no, I do not want that. So I just, worked with doctors and stuff to be on a lower dose. I'm more comfortable with the pace that things are going at. And that is awesome. Thank you, Howard Brown, for being awesome. Howard Brown Health Center in Chicago.
I bet that is a challenge that I don't think about when I go see a doctor. Like, just someone who can first accept you for who you are, or what who you're trying to reach, and be able to help you as well.
Yeah,
that's the second part.
It's very difficult, especially as a non-binary person, to be able to access hormone replacement therapy and surgeries and other medical transition-related care, because a lot of doctors don't see you as trans enough to be able to, receive that kind of care, even if you've done all your research and you know exactly what you want, and there are no medical, like, risks involved in doing it. They are still like, well, you're not really trans, so I think this would be a bad decision for you. But I'm very lucky to live in central Illinois and be a few hours away from Chicago, where there's the Howard Brown Health Center, which is one of the, most famous LGBT health centers in the world. And they operate on an informed consent model of hormone replacement therapy. So as long as there aren't any medical risks involved, and they take your entire medical history and do blood work and all the things to make sure that nothing is going to be a problem, and you go back every 6 months for regular checkups and stuff. They just give you a packet with, all sorts of information about hormone replacement therapy and what the effects are going to be, what the potential side effects are, and you sign it and they give it to you. As long as there aren't any kind of, medical risks, they're like, okay, you can make your own decisions. Like, you're a human being. Congratulations. Welcome to humanness.
Are you still, when do you reach kind of your Goldilocks zone? And that's finding that or a bad word for that, but where you want to actually end up, and do you have to keep basically taking hormones?
Yeah, there are some effects that are permanent and some that are reversible. So, for example, body hair growth, if you stop taking testosterone, then some of it can thin out a little bit, but it'll still be more than you had before you started testosterone. And your voice will always stay the same. If your voice drops, then it's not going to, go back up to a quote unquote female range after you stop testosterone. But there are other effects that are reversible, like fat redistribution. When you take testosterone, it distributes into a more quote unquote masculine. I don't like using these binary terms, but masculine kind of, proportions. and that kind of thing. So for the foreseeable future, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm happy with what's going on. I'm actually considering maybe upping my dose a little bit because I want to be kind of in a place where when people see me, they don't really know what I was assigned at birth, because that makes me happy personally. That's why I changed my name to Ari, which is a gender neutral name. But I still get pretty much, you know, I get read as female almost all the time. So I'm hoping to get a little bit more in the androgynous zone, but, you know, we'll see how things go.
Yeah, and going back to, I don't know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but do you think people who admit they are bisexual or pansexual are just being more honest?
Oh man, this is a whole other topic.
It's all about the, I don't know, there's always this spectrum discussion. You know,
Yeah.
there is totally straight and totally gay, and then everybody's usually somewhere in the middle. But
yeah, I mean, it depends on, I'm not a person who believes in policing people's labels that they're comfortable with, within reason. For example, if there's like a cisgender female who has only ever had sex with other cisgender females and has only ever been attracted to other cisgender females and is completely repulsed by males, and she calls herself straight, that's not really an accurate label. I might have a little bit of a problem with that. But, you know, I'm okay with people using, again, within reason, whatever term they want to use. And, you know, bisexuality is one of those things where you don't necessarily have to identify yourself as bisexual if you're like, for example, you're attracted to opposite gender 99% of the time and, you know, other genders 1% of the time. I mean, I think it's a personal decision, and it's up to each person to decide what label that they want to use that best describes them, because it's just a label. It doesn't really matter that much in the end. It's just a shorthand to describe your feelings to yourself and to other people. So if you are using a label that you feel describes yourself pretty well and you're comfortable with it, then go for it. I'm totally in favor of that.
cool. And I'll try to not ask every other question as a sex question, but
I love sexy times, though. They're so
the
good.
first episode of Gaytheist Manifesto that I heard you as the co-host was number 44, which is Let's Get Sexy. So are you sure you don't like talking about yourself?
What did I say on there? I don't remember. Other than sex is a good thing sometimes.
I know the other, well, there were two guests on there as well. But,
Yeah.
They did a lot of talking, but that was good. It was just a good episode in general. It wasn't just, I mean,
Yeah. And we got
I was,
to
you know,
hear
I wasn't
all
trying to
that.
be super stocky and just listen to your part. So I wanted to listen to everybody.
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
Be even-handed.
Equal
here.
opportunity stalking.
Exactly.
Well, then I'm sure you heard Callie talk about all of her little things that are interesting.
Yeah, well, I haven't listened to the show regularly, so all I hear is like when Callie is on No Religion Required, and you know, it's like, oh, Callie is all kinds of freaky, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I actually didn't hear that in the early few, you know, was that pre-Arism, you know, there's going to be like a timeline before Christ and after Christ, before Ari, after Ari kind of things.
Exactly.
Just don't, there's nothing
The
happened
show
before
has
that.
been
That's
forever
important.
changed.
So yes, it did come up that, yeah, Callie likes
Yeah. She
different kind of
likes,
stuff. But
she likes some things.
there's just so many, there are all these layers, and I'm sure I already brought this up, but it's like, for me, being an atheist is like the one way where it's like, whoa, I'm like different from the norm. But you and Callie have all these things. Like it's just one of like 12
It's
things.
so much fun.
And just like introducing yourself to someone could take 3 hours, because it's just, there's a lot there that people are just like, wait a second. And it's like, oh, okay, that's all right. At least I hope that's what people are like.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe people have this impression of me and Callie and, you know, other people like us in the movement, that because we are not privileged in all of the same ways as, you know, a white, straight, cisgender, Christian, whatever person would be, that I don't know that we have like really hard lives or something, but I think my life is pretty awesome. And I've been really lucky to, while I have, experienced some hardships because of some, groups that I happen to be a part of, my life is still pretty great, comparatively anyway. So I'm just here to brag about how great my life is, and everyone else sucks. So there you go.
That is beautiful right there. That is such a great out of context quote. I've already poured my second beer, so somebody knows.
Nice.
Or brown dog. I like my
it's got a doggy on it.
Brown ales are my jam, my jelly, my peanut butter, and my peanuts. So let's try this one.
Crunchy peanut butter, though.
Obviously, I've had too much beer because every question I go, so
here we go.
Is it the 10th or 12th time you're asked by a cis white dude how to be a better ally that you either get your wings or a free ice cream cone?
Oh, do I have to choose which one? Wings or ice cream? Because that's a hard decision, man. I don't know. No, that's actually a topic that I am really passionate about, because I see so many people in my life and just, on the internet or in, the circles that I'm around who want to be really good allies to people, and they just don't really know how. And so I want to be there to, to teach people, not like exactly what to say and, all the talking points or whatever, but, people, sometimes approach me like, how do I approach this sort of topic with other people? And I'm really, really happy to talk to them about that, because I feel like allyship is extremely important. And a lot of times, trans people get in trouble for calling cis people cis scum and whatever. And I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes, because I just get really frustrated that people don't know all the things that they're supposed to know, even though a lot of people are trying to learn. And there are definitely people who don't want to learn, who just want to be bigots and just want to hate on other people and are not interested in learning anything new. And that sucks for them, because they probably are really sad and angry people who don't have a lot of fun in life. So I feel kind of bad for them. But, it's really important to me to be able to teach people, just because, this is a point. And I've got this other podcast project that Jeremiah and I are doing called the SJW Circle Jerk. And in our first episode, we talked about allyship. And I totally forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? I was saying that I don't remember.
It's just such a great thing. Like, once it's like potato chips. Once somebody gets started and does a podcast, they have to do a second one.
It really is.
It's like you just can't. And then like, these super groups being formed, Trav and Morgan doing a show together. Exactly. It's like, well, of course, man. They were only doing one show each. You can't.
Because we had this idea for this spinoff for a long time, and we never did it. And then all these people started getting spinoffs, and then we look like we're the posers who are trying to have our own spinoff.
Yeah. I do want to say that I think, I like to come up with ideas for other people to make money. So if you want to, I'm hoping you're doing, Gaytheist Manifesto t-shirts, but one with cis scum on it I might have to buy one of those.
Yes, that would be amazing. If you would wear that, you would be like #1 ally ever. I would love it. I really wish I could remember what I was going to say, because it was a good point. And now I don't remember what it was. It was something about allyship. And
being a good ally.
I remember now.
Okay.
I remember. Okay. So we were talking about an article that a person had written after the Orlando shooting, saying basically cis straight people shut up and don't talk about this at all, because it's appropriating. It's like inserting yourself into this tragedy that has nothing to do with you. And I had a lot of problems with that article, which I went into in depth on the episode, because I feel like allyship is so incredibly important, because transgender people are, by definition, a minority. And a lot of people aren't interested in listening to transgender people because they think transgender people are weird, or they're mentally ill, or, they're biased, obviously in favor of their own group, which makes all the sense in the world. And so they don't want to listen to transgender people. And we need allies, because transgender people are like 1% of the population. And if we don't have the other 99% on our side, we're never going to get anything done. So I think allyship and good allyship is an extremely important thing to be able to just change the general culture, because we can't force people to change. We need people to help us to help gradually help people change their minds and change the way that they treat people and change the way that they view the world.
Yeah, I was asked in the past week, like, why I do this show, and it's really like, well, I like talking, and well, actually, I like the other person talking more. That's really the whole point of this show, is the other person is way more interesting. But it's
maybe not in this episode.
I mean, when I heard last week from the pastor Matt that he was part of a like a small denomination of Christianity that only had 2 million people, I was thinking,
2 million.
My gosh, we just had this big atheist rally and we had like 10,000 people, and we're like, yes, that's great.
Yes, except for the people who were saying it was a failure because it wasn't as big as last year, but those people are jerks.
I mean, it wasn't a failure, and you got to, you know, get closer to your deductible, right?
It was awesome.
We'll have to cover that bit a little bit later. But the point was, there are a lot of atheists that exist and think there's like nobody else who's like them, and that's why they don't talk about it. And plus, there are consequences. And I feel like if you are trans, that's even more magnified, because people are definitely going to be hiding, and they're not going to be talking about who they are because they get told by society you're not legitimate and this isn't a real thing. And either they believe it or they're scared.
There's a threat of actual physical violence against you and all sorts of negative consequences that can happen. Like,
I can totally pass the Christian. How you doing?
Yeah.
Jesus. I don't have a cross, but I'll try.
Jesus, but man.
And it doesn't seem important, but it does seem like anybody who's speaking out is probably speaking out for a countless number of people who can't.
Exactly.
So do it, and for you to do it in your show, and even though you do say like atheist, it's like really the atheist part doesn't really get focused as much because there's plenty of other stuff to talk about, plenty of issues you got going on. And really, what is atheism other than God? Not really me.
Yeah.
you gotta move on. There's gotta be, you know, other stuff.
Yeah.
So you've lived in Texas, Arkansas, and now you're in Central Illinois. Is it Normal Illinois? Is that Illinois State?
Yes,
Salukis?
Illinois State.
Is that Salukis? I don't know.
No, it's the Redbirds.
Okay.
Yeah, my partner's getting his master's degree in quantitative psychology here, so he's.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You two must have like deep psychological conversations, you know?
Yeah, there was definitely one 4th of July where we got really drunk on limoncello and then laid in the driveway watching the fireworks and argued about the validity of single participant designs. So that's fun.
What is a single participant design?
Like an experiment that only has one person, or not necessarily an experiment, but maybe an observational study. He's pro that. I'm anti that. So you'd have to ask him about that.
Isn't that kind of like
we're both psych nerds?
People who have the religious experience, but no one else can actually prove whether it really happened.
I mean, I guess that could be an example. He's was talking more about, you know, a lot of, you know, case studies or whatever, where it's this really specific example of this one thing that doesn't happen to a lot of people. So you just study this one person and you can get more information about whatever's going on with them. Whereas I am more, you know, experimentally focused. But this is totally, completely off topic, probably.
Psychological discussions, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. I will admit that I am in an awkward position. So as the prototypical straight white male doing an atheist podcast, I am contractually obligated to have at least one trans friend and one genderqueer friend, and I've interviewed Callie and Trev already. Does that mean we are shit out of luck and can't be friends?
Oh, really? You can't have more than two? That's really unfortunate for me.
We always have that kind of token, like, oh, I have this one friend who's this.
I've
got the whole thing covered. No, I need more. More voices are good always. I had every once in a while a joke question.
Send me your address and I'll send you some presents, and maybe we can see about that friendship thing.
Presents, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. They're
some exotic beer nuts from Normal, Illinois.
Exotic beer nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Only the exotic est. Can you talk about your sign-off contest with Jeremiah? And is this a real contest?
Yes.
Since after people listen to a full 3-hour NRR show and hear Jeremiah's voice, they usually just turn it off?
That is true. Yeah, I guess I do have kind of an unfair advantage because Callie likes to keep our episodes about an hour to an hour and a half. But yeah, I'm definitely winning. I'm just going to put that out there. I've been told by multiple people that I am funnier and more charming and more clever and just all around cuter than Jeremiah. And I have to disagree, but also agree because I'm the best. So there you go.
If someone talks about low self-esteem, you definitely like to #win. So nothing wrong with that.
Not a coping mechanism. Not at all.
We talk about, your relationship with Jeremiah, and are you the only reason that people like Jeremiah? And that's Jeremiah the Prophet on No Religion Required. I'm sure most people know that, but if you don't, NRR Prophet on Twitter, because he thinks Twitter is the devil, and let's prove it by sending him crap.
He doesn't like Twitter, but he still posts on there quite a bit because he feels like he has to. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, like, if you're listening to this and you're familiar with No Religion Required, I'm sure you know Corinne, and she and Jeremiah have quite an interesting relationship that is love-hate, mostly hate / maybe a little bit of love here and there, maybe some really, kind of disgust-filled hugs that happen when they meet up. But
hate hugs. I've never had one of those.
But I finally met her and, the whole family at the Reason Rally. And Corinne is like on my side about everything because, if she has to pick between me and Jeremiah, it's going to be me. And I'm like, how is it that you think that I'm really cool, but I love Jeremiah and you hate Jeremiah? And she, I don't know. I don't think she really had an answer for me. So I think that she needs to think about that more because as a skeptic, you need to have good reasons to believe the things that you believe. And I'm not sure that she does have good reasons to hate him because what can I say? He's adorable.
I think part of it was Corinne, started with, she had the momentum going. She's rolling the snowball going down the hill like, well, I started hating Jeremiah, so I got to stick with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And she did. We actually were chatting today, and she was like, interviewing Ari today. Okay, is Jeremiah going to be on there? Because otherwise I'm not, I'm not listening. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. It's all conditional love. What's happening? It's not right.
I don't know,
It's not right. But
there's so much division in the atheist community, and I think we just need to come together in love. And I think that Jeremiah and Corinne need to have a truce and maybe have some makeup sex.
Wow.
Maybe. I said maybe. Yeah, I didn't say definitely. It's up to them, of course, because otherwise that would not be consent, and I would be against that. But I'm going to strongly encourage at least a little bit of smooching. Maybe on the cheek. It's all right if it's on the cheek.
Get working on the consent forms, people. Talk to your local constable and get this thing happening.
Yeah, exactly. As a psych person, I can draw up some informed consent forms for you, and that way I won't get in trouble with the IRB. It'll be good.
There is one thing I find admirable about you, and I know I'm saying nice things about you, and you have to automatically, parry them. Parry them. Because you can.
I can't do it. Punch.
But the fact that you talked about being like polyamorous, even though you are with a partner you've been with for a while, almost like projecting, like, you know what? I know I have interest in other people, or I might, and I'm leaving the possibility open. I think that's very, I don't know, I think it's an admirable trait, and it's led to this whole thing with Jeremiah. So what kind of...
This whole deal.
What's it like kind of talking to your primary partner about having a Jeremiah in your life?
It is scary and awkward, but also it's okay because my partner is a really rational and reasonable person. I'm very lucky to have somebody who is, as the skeptics do, values, reason and logic and tries not to let emotions get in the way of reality. So it was, we'd been through this kind of before a little bit with somebody who I had kind of sort of been with before him. So he was a little bit more used to the idea, I think. But he, he's not polyamorous himself. So he's just kind of trying to like wrap his head around it, I guess. And he's being extremely understanding and open and talking with me about it. And, it's really important if you're in that kind of situation to have just complete open communication with your partner, because if you don't, then, you know, jealousy is going to start brewing and people are going to be not sure what's going on. And it's really important for me because I care about all my relationships and I want them to be as happy and as fulfilled and as healthy as possible and last as long as they do. So it's really important to me to have a lot of open communication, and I'm very lucky to be with somebody who's very understanding of that, even though he doesn't, you know, he's not polyamorous himself, so he doesn't really understand it, but he trusts me and I trust him because we talk openly and we don't have all this religious dogma telling us that this is what a relationship has to be. So we're more open to, you know, arranging things how it suits us, and we're not maybe a little bit afraid just because of our, you know, programming from our culture that says that relationships have to be this certain way. You have to, you know, date this person for however long, and then you move in, and then you get married, and then you're with them for 20 years, and then you get divorced, and then you go and be with somebody else, maybe. Or maybe you stay together forever, and that's really nice. But, you know, that's the culture that we grow up in, and it's really freeing to be able to have open communication with people and just arrange your relationships in a way that makes you happy and makes everyone involved happy. So it's really, really freeing. And I really like that we're able to do that because we've, you know, we put so much emphasis on reason and logic and having reasons for believing the things that you believe. And if you have a knee-jerk reaction, you know, your feelings are valid, but you also need to examine that and make sure that there's, you know, actual evidence behind the things that you believe. So that is all a really roundabout way of saying that it is awesome being in a relationship with somebody who's reasonable. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in my case, my wife is a believer, and I can't say she's 100% behind me doing this show, but she kind of knows it's something that is just like a passion of mine, and I wouldn't be doing it if I weren't like, this is great. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And really, it's excuse me to talk to awesome people. No one would talk to me otherwise if I weren't recording it, right? But it is, I think, the misconception about relationships is like that it's perfect on the onset and it stays perfect and without work.
Yes.
And you have to constantly work at it.
It's one true love.
You have to negotiate, and occasionally things change. Like when we got married, I didn't really care about religion, but it wasn't a thing. I'm pretty sure some biblical quote was said during the ceremony, but I didn't really give a crap. But then it kind of grew and grew and grew. And look at me on a show, 62 episodes in. And so
you identify as a show.
You have to identify as a show with a stupid name, I've been told, but that's okay. It's my name, and I'm going to stick behind it. It has my name in it, so who cares?
So it's perfect and awesome.
It's perfect and awesome. Just the way you are. Yes.
I loved that you used the word negotiate in there, because that's something that I learned, and I plug this show all the time, and I'm really sorry if you are someone who follows me, and this is the billionth time you've heard me plug this, but Secular Sexuality with Daryl Ray is one of the primary reasons why I'm able to have these kinds of relationships in my life, because before I heard that, I wasn't familiar with polyamory really at all. You know, I knew that there were people who had relationships with multiple people, but I didn't really know what to think about it. And I had that same sort of that knee-jerk reaction, like, I don't know why, but I just feel like this is wrong. And after listening to a bunch of his episodes, and he has several episodes that talk about polyamory and just talk about, he calls it negotiating relationships, which is why it reminded me when you said that. Even in monogamous relationships, he feels like it's extremely important to every so often just talk to your partner, be really open and honest, and see how things are going, and, you know, decide what are each of your needs, what are each of your goals, and how can you, you know, come together to make that happen for the other person and for yourself. And, you know, if there are things that are in conflict, maybe you need to work that out. And that's just a really healthy thing to do, because a lot of times people just assume things in their relationships, and they are not happy and their partner's not happy, and no one ever talks about it. And it's just really damaging for people to be in that kind of a situation, and they feel like they can't talk about it because, you know, relationships are supposed to be this way, and you're supposed to intuit what your partner needs. You're supposed to know that. And So that's something that Daryl Ray talks about all the time, even in monogamous relationships, is, you know, negotiating what are your needs, what are your expectations, what are your boundaries, and try and follow that as best you can going forward. And it's it's exactly the same thing in a polyamorous relationship. You just have more people to coordinate, I guess. So that's another plug for one of the best shows out there, Secular Sexuality with Daryl Ray, also on Secular Media Network.
I know, you got this network thing. That's nice. She's got the plugs all covered.
It just means that we have like a Secular Media Group website. That's about it.
And the secret handshake and all that good stuff, which I'm sure you covered.
Yes. And we have a direct telepathic link to David Smalley. And he tells us what we can and cannot say.
You know, I met him at ReasonCon last year, and I didn't get to rub his head for luck, so I feel like I missed out. I did talk to him, but that was about it.
Sorry. Oh, it was great when he and Jeremiah met at Reason Rally for the first time. They have this thing where they get each other's names wrong on purpose because they're like, oh, I don't even really know who that person is. And they see each other, and David goes, Johnny, and then rugs up and hugs Jeremiah. It was beautiful.
Well, can you talk about, because I want to hear from every person who went to Reason Rally and feel even worse about myself for not going. So tell me about what happened, because you had a little incident with a wine glass, but you know, other than that, I feel like you had a good time.
Yes, I had a wonderful time. It was me and Jeremiah's first date, which was amazing. But I also got to meet, it was Zachary. Oh God, okay, sorry. My partner's doing some things over there. Yeah, I got to meet the whole family, and it was it was really, really awesome because these are people that I had never met other than Callie, you know, in person. And we went to that Friday night. It was, you know, the actual rally was on Saturday, but we got in on Friday afternoon, and we met with a bunch of people at a restaurant. And actually my other partner, Casey, who lives in Maryland, she lives really close, so she decided to come down and see me and hang out. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. It's just going to be a little intimate gathering with just me and Callie and Jeremiah and Bobby and Ashley and some other people. And it turned out to be this whole huge thing because Bobby invited everyone in the world. And I was like, oh man, I'm like really sorry about this because I thought it was just going to be a few people, and there's all these people that you don't know. And I was just running up and hugging people that I had talked to on podcasts and online, and just feeling like, oh, I'm like this is my family. This is awesome. And afterwards, I was like, I'm really sorry. I didn't think it was going to be like that. And she was like, no, it was actually really awesome. It was like being at a family reunion where everyone actually really likes each other.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So it was great, and I barely even listened to any of the speeches at the rally. I'm so sorry, but I was just walking around looking for people the whole time and just hugging people and, you know, getting to meet people that I had been listening to and talking to for a long time. So that was what I got out of it personally. But it was a great experience, and I can't wait to go to my next convention, which will be Gateway to Reason.
Is that St. Louis?
Yes, that's in St. Louis in September. I live pretty close to there, so of course I couldn't miss that. And Jeremiah and Callie and a few other people will also be there as well. So if you're near there, please come see us. It'd be awesome.
Nice. Well, I went to college at University of Missouri, so I commonly made the drive between Columbia, Missouri, and Nashville, where my parents live. So I'm used to that drive. Man, that Illinois part is really, there's nothing there. So, nothing there in you, right?
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of most of America.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps. People don't realize that as much. And I have to say, because I went to ReasonCon last year, which was in Hickory, North Carolina, so it's like in the middle of nowhere. And I have to admit, there were a lot of times where a talk would start, but I'd be having a conversation with somebody and I'd just like miss it. And it was more about, the memories are more about, oh yeah, we're all kind of hanging out and drinking together and getting to see. There's no event like that for me because I had met one of the people at that conference in person before, and there were like 100 people to meet. And in your case, there were probably thousands of people to meet. There were that many people there because everybody's a fan.
No, I mean,
It should be.
nobody. Jeremiah was like, like nobody's gonna. He thinks that he's like such a loser and he's the best person ever. But he thinks that like nobody cares about him and all this stuff. And he got like shout outs from people like across the way being like, oh my gosh, it's the prophet Jeremiah. And people like coming up and talking, and they'd be like, and who are you? And I'd be like, I am Ari. And they're
Oh
like,
no,
oh yeah, you've been on that show before.
you've been on that show.
Yeah. But there were definitely a few listeners who I got to meet, and a lot of them didn't know what I looked like. And I was hanging around with Callie and Jeremiah and Eli Bosnick and a bunch of other people, and they would hear me talking, and they'd be like, hey, I know that voice. You're Ari Stillman. I'd be like, yeah, I'm kind of famous. That's really weird. Okay. Thanks for listening. I love you. Bye.
Kind of famous. Well, when I went to ReasonCon last year, I hadn't transitioned from being just a YouTuber to a podcast. So a couple people were like, hey, I've heard your show. I'm like, that's cool. I was something like 7 episodes in at the time. But it is kind of nice to get the feedback and go, oh, people do listen to this. Wait a second. Why do I do this again? Because people listen. Or I just like talking. Or it's an excuse to drink on a weeknight. I don't know. That might be part of it too.
Yeah, it's just so confusing to me that people care about what I have to say, because I'm just like, as I've talked about on the show and mentioned a few times on here, I've got issues with anxiety and depression, and it's just really strange to me that people think that what I have to say is valuable, because I'm always thinking about like what I said that was wrong or what I could have done better, or feeling like, you know, someone else could say this, the exact same thing that I'm saying better than I can, but people are constantly, you know, reaching out to me saying that they appreciate what I do. So it feels really good. So I'm going to keep doing it because it's helping people, and that's what I aim to do. So thank you very much to all the people who are supporting me. I couldn't do it without you.
Well, I appreciate what you do, and I haven't had a chance to talk about your kind of Patheos blog. So how do you kind of work on what you come up with? And of course, how did you decide to get your cat involved in a blog post?
I had to. I just had to do that. It's been a running joke for a while, ever since my partner and I adopted him when we first moved to Illinois, that he's probably a conservative Christian. And it just evolved into this whole thing where he's supporting Ted Cruz, and he is just so sad and crying all the time because his parents are atheists and one of his parents is transgender, and he's always trying to convert us, and he just has his own little personality. So I just thought, especially because of, you know, Orlando and all the stuff that's been happening in the queer community, and people are really feeling scared and afraid, I thought it would be a good idea to put some humor into things and maybe just make people laugh, even though, you know, the content is not necessarily something they can actually use in their real life. I tried to put some like actual good advice in there, but, you know, being someone who doesn't really have that experience of having to deal with like a fundamentalist family, it's not something that I am, you know, personally well versed in, but I just thought it would be funny pretty much. And even if it's not something that it gives people any actual advice, as long as it makes them happy and makes them laugh and makes them forget about whatever problems they're having for a little while, then I feel like I've accomplished something there.
Yeah, it was a nice reversal, because you get the article and you're like, oh, it's how to deal with religious family members. Okay. Who doesn't have that? And you're like, oh, it's your cat. What?
I had to do that. I was torn about that, because I thought maybe I would give it like a misleading title, but then put a picture of my cat as the little thumbnail picture so that people would kind of be able to guess what they were getting into. And I was talking to Jeremiah about it, and I was like, I would feel really bad if somebody, you know, clicked on it looking for actual advice and they got this, and they were like, oh, I actually needed advice and help, and you just gave me this stupid article. But he convinced me that it would be funnier if I just played it straight that way. And then at the end, I linked, you know, an actual article. If you really need information and you're going to be a downer and you need some advice about how to deal with your crabby family, then here's some, you know, people who actually can give you some good advice about this. But this is just for funsies. So there you go. Stop it.
Leave it to Ari to prove that you can play it straight.
Exactly. That's a good one. I've actually never heard that one before.
You drank, you know, a couple beverages.
That's true.
What is coming up for the Gaytheist Manifesto? Is there going to be like a road show? I mean, what's happening?
Oh man, I mean, we don't have anything big planned at the moment. Just our normal episodes. I mean, Callie's always going all over the place doing her thing that she does. She's going to be at the protest for the Ark Encounter opening in Cincinnati in a little while.
That's going to be because it's the whole Ark Encounter. That's pretty close, right? Isn't that like sort of that whole Louisville, Cincinnati area is really close?
Yeah, she's in Cincinnati, so she's really close to there. And unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because it's on a Thursday, and I have work, and I live 4 hours away from there. But she'll be there, and she'll be talking at the after party, giving a little speech about it. So that'll be cool. Yeah, there's literally an after party for the protest of the Ark Encounter because why not? It's a bunch of atheists, so there's got to be some partying and some booze involved. Yeah, we're going to be at Gateway to Reason in St. Louis in August sometime. We don't know the exact dates. You'd have to ask Callie about that. She's the one who does all the
details
cool stuff.
For that. That'll be show note material. That'll be all on there. So
yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know of any big stuff coming up. We're just going to keep releasing our episodes that we do and blogging about stuff on Patheos and doing how we do, you know, pushing the gay agenda.
It's important.
So important.
You got to push the gay agenda. You can't pull something about that. But
I mean, if you're into that, you could do that too.
Where do people, find you online and find the show and all that good stuff?
I have to say, unfortunately, I didn't prepare an outro because that is a special thing that's just for the Gaytheist Manifesto. So if you want to hear that, then you have to listen to the show because we are greedy people who need your money, and that's why we do it, because we make so much money off of you. You can email me at Ari Stillman.
Where's your money right there? Where's your dollar bills?
All that activist money. You can email me aristillman4, the number 4, @gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook a lot, so you can friend me. My name's Ari Stillman. Our website is gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com, or it could be secularmediagroup.gaytheistmanifesto. I think it's the first one. I'm terrible at this. That's our website. Our blog is patheos.com/blogs/the Gaytheist Manifesto. And we have a Facebook page for the Gaytheist Manifesto. And also, as I mentioned, Jeremiah and I have started a new show called the SJW Circle Jerk. But please don't listen. We do not want you to listen to it.
Or do you want no one to listen?
Yep. Nobody listen.
Oddly, that sometimes works. Well, I have crafted a special outro. But first, if you want to support this show, go to patreon.com/Zachrilege, ZACHRILEGE. Be like Bobby, Hugh, and Teody, men of distinction, and support the show. So, here we go. Let's finish this up.
All right.
If you like me, then you'll love my pedant club. In the Zachrilege pedant club, you are always right because other people are dumb. Say you hate feminists because someone with a Hillary stick could cut you off in traffic. Be cool and hate an entire religion because one person gave you a dirty look for drinking coffee during Ramadan. Say you love Jesus, but just the white one with the laser beams because everyone knows that's stupid, and saying someone's stupid feels so smart. And don't forget, atheists are responsible for the chemtrails that caused your bigotry. Wow. Zachrilege Pedant Club.
I love it.
Patent pending. Hey, ask a potato question. What happened to me? We ran out of time. Maybe next time.
No.
So you can follow me on Twitter because I actually like Twitter. It's me and a bunch of British people because most Americans, for some reason, are all Facebook. But it's Zachrilege @Zachrilege. Like my Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook and send all hate mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thanks to Ari for being on tonight. I think I may have lost Ari because I see what looks like a frozen picture over there. But hey, Normal, Illinois did pretty good. You made it a whole hour. So if Ari doesn't come back, there will be lots of links and stuff in the show notes you can follow. And of course, listen to the Gaytheist Manifesto every week, twice a week. Listen to it twice. You will probably miss something the first time. So stay safe, and if you need to chat, I'm available. If you're an atheist and feel alone, you are not alone. Reach out. Let's chat and get that human connectedness that keeps people coming back every Sunday. Stay skeptical. I love all y'all. Good night.